Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Martial Universe Season 10 Part 77 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. Another ancestral symbol fist penetrated space and ruthlessly smashed onto the body of the 7th Seat King. The frightening power directly forced the latter to take dozens of steps back, and even the area where the latter's feet landed was slightly shaken. The 7th Seat King heavily stomped his foot and forcefully stabilized his body. He looked at the fist imprints on the Devil Emperor armor. The fury that was originally on his face had diminished at this moment. As expected of someone who possesses 3 ancestral symbols. The 7th Seat King lifted his head and deeply inhaled a breath of air. Those demonic eyes gradually became indifferent. However, Lin Dong could detect an extremely violent emotion surging under this indifference. It was obvious that the 7th Seat King had truly been angered after being violently beaten by Lin Dong. Although I really hate you. I truly do not have the time to play with trash like you now. Ruthlessness finally surged within the 7th Seat King's eyes. After which, he took a step forward as frightening demonic chi swept forth. The entire place began to tremble. The 7th Seat King glared at Lin Dong as both of his hands suddenly formed many strange seals. Soon after, a mouthful of blood was spat out from his mouth. Black blood squirmed and wiggled as it turned into a black skull seal. The skull gave off an evil ripple that made one shudder. Such evilness had even surpassed that of the 7th Seat King himself. Roar! The countless Yimo below suddenly roared towards the sky after this extremely evil ripple emerged. Their roars contained an almost zealot-like craziness. Some of the Yimo directly knelt down and worshipped the skull seal. There was a slight change in the expression within Lin Dong's eyes when he saw this. The 7th Seat King smiled ferociously at Lin Dong and said, "Originally, I was planning on using this to deal with the Chaos Master. However, since you are so anxious to die, I will first finish you off." The 7th Seat King formed a seal with his hands and grasped the skull seal within his hands. After which, his body also slowly knelt down. Waves of viscous demonic chi overflowed from within his body. Finally, it turned into a 10,000 feet large blurry figure above his head. The surrounding Yuan power began to flee the moment this black figure appeared. Viscous demonic chi spread as a hoarse voice was slowly emitted from the 7th Seat King's mouth. "Yimo Emperor, descend." It was as if dusk had suddenly descended upon the land. Even the bright sun in the sky seemed to tremble at this moment as it hid behind the clouds in fear. Endless demonic chi swept across the sky. This entire land seemed to tremble under the huge devil-like figure. Flying fish vanished from the surface of the sea and even the sea winds had fallen silent. The terrible fight on the island also came to a strange stop at this very moment. Countless gazes lifted in horror as they looked upon the devil-like figure. Indescribable fear crawled out from the depths of their hearts like vines, causing their faces to turn deathly pale with fear. The devil-like figure was akin to an emperor from another world. It descended in a barbaric fashion, and no one in this world could stop it. Yimo Emperor? Lin Dong was also shocked as he looked at the devil-like figure. Could this be the Yimo Emperor whom only the legendary symbol ancestor could match? It is merely an Yimo Emperor phantasm. The Yimo Emperor from back then had been forced out of the crack between the planes by my master and sealed away together with the crack. How could this fellow possibly summon him? Within the skull seal was a thread of the Yimo Emperor's hair. Yang's voice sounded. "Yimo Emperor phantasm." Lin Dong was initially startled. Soon after, he inhaled a breath of cool air in his heart. Just a thread of hair possessed such a presence? Just how frightening was the Yimo Emperor's true body? TSK, Lin Dong, it is time for you to die. Under the Yimo Emperor phantasm, the 7th Seat King's eyes were ferocious. He gave Lin Dong a sinister smile and the seal formed by his hands abruptly changed. Bang! The moment his hand seal changed, the Yimo Emperor phantasm slowly lifting its hand and lightly swatted at Lin Dong. The Yimo Emperor hand did not possess any shocking energy ripples as it swatted towards Lin Dong. However, the latter felt mortal danger. Just as he was about to dodge, he was horrified to discover that the area around him seemed to have locked, making it impossible to move. God damn it! Lin Dong cursed. Soon after, his originally pitch-black eyes suddenly turned bright silver. Silver light frantically surged from within his body as he pushed his spatial power to the limit. Who? The demonic hand lightly swatted past. Space itself seemed to be swatted into nothingness wherever it passed. Soon after, the demonic hand landed on Lin Dong's body under the vicious gaze of the Seventh Seat King. The demonic hand drifted past. The spot where Lin Dong was standing earlier was now empty. This caused the countless experts below to experience a change in expression. Could it be that Lin Dong had been swatted into nothingness? Spatial ancestral symbol Her. It is indeed a little troublesome. The Seventh Seat King frowned when he saw this. Soon after, he looked into the distance in a dark and cold manner where space was distorting, and Lin Dong's figure strangely appeared. However, there was now some cold sweat on his forehead. If he was a little slower, it was likely that he would have been struck. Although being struck would not kill him, it would definitely result in grave injuries. I will not allow you to escape again. The Seventh Seat King chuckled coldly. The seal formed by his hands changed, and the Yimo Emperor Phantasm once again lifted its hand. The hand of darkness appeared to be able to wrap around the sun and moon as it began to smash towards Lin Dong in an overwhelming manner. Roar! A fierce glint was burst from Lin Dong's eyes when he saw this, and he let loose a long dragon-like roar. Countless purple-gold dragon tattoos swept out in all directions. The purple-gold dragon tattoos continuously gathered together. Lin Dong had evidently unleashed the Yuan power in his body to the limit. In the blink of an eye, a frightening number of 15,000 purple-gold dragon tattoos had appeared. The 15,000 dragon tattoos entwined around him. The dragon tattoos roared in unison, releasing a terrifying aura. Bang! Lin Dong's expression was ice-cold. The purple-gold dragon spear flew out of his hand and 15,000 purple-gold dragon tattoos followed behind. In the end, they charged towards the Yimo Emperor Phantasm's giant hand. Ha ha, how you dare to resist in front of the Emperor? You really overestimate yourself. The Seventh Seat King laughed out loud towards the sky upon seeing this. The Yimo Emperor Phantasm's giant hand clashed with the 10,000 purple gold dragons as he laughed. No loud sound appeared from the clash. The giant hand merely paused for a split second in the face of this hindrance, before the countless purple gold dragon tattoos turned to dust and disappeared. To think that this Yimo Emperor Phantasm had reached such a terrifying level. On the Jiyu clan battle area within the island, horror filled the pretty faces of Jiyu Mengqi and Jiyu Yang upon seeing this scene. Soon after, they tightly clenched their hands as they watched that thin figure. In the sky, Lin Dong's expression became extremely grave when he saw the fruitlessness of even such a powerful attack. In the next instant, he deeply breathed in. His slender hand extended and lightning began to flicker. Lightning flowed out and a lightning bow that was filled with power in a flash. Lin Dong pulled with his finger and a black arrow stealthily took shape. The Seventh Seat King's pupils shrunk slightly after seeing that Lin Dong had finally taken out this lightning bow and black arrow which had seriously injured him back then. Soon after, however, he laughed coldly. He did not believe that Lin Dong would be able to break the Yimo Emperor Phantasm. I will let you understand true despair and horror. The Seventh Seat King eerily stared at Lin Dong with ferociously chilling eyes. Lin Dong ignored his gaze. The bow turned into a full moon as the black arrow gently trembled. After which, the light of primal chaos surged from that mysterious place and covered the black arrow. The vast Yuan power around him suddenly disappeared at this moment. He was now just like an ordinary person. Despite his ordinary appearance, however, everyone on the island could vaguely feel the monstrous waves churning under that calm and plain surface. Such power would surely cause even the land to tremble. Everyone's hands suddenly clenched tightly. All of them could feel the power of Lin Dong's attack. However, was it really possible to deal with that indescribably terrifying Yimo Emperor Phantasm? If Lin Dong was defeated, the morale of the countless experts on the island would decline, and they would have difficulty stopping the Yimo assault. At that time, it would truly turn into a bloodbath. Who? A breath of white vapor was gently exhaled from Lin Dong's mouth, as a brilliant light suddenly flitted across those black eyes of his. The light appeared as bright and dazzling as the scorching sun. Lin Dong suddenly released his finger, which was holding tightly onto the bowstring. Swoosh! The black arrow did not create any frightening energy ripples when it shot forward. However, its speed was indescribably fast. Everyone could only see a flash of black light. Next, they saw the black arrow powerfully strike the giant hand of the Yimo Emperor Phantasm. The world seemed to freeze at this moment. The black arrow and giant hand were in a deadlock. This time around, however, the Yimo Emperor's giant hand was no longer able to break through in an easy fashion. The black arrow shook violently as if there was an invisible and frightening strength that completely blocked the terrifying power from the Yimo Emperor's giant hand. There was neither a magnificent explosion, nor a frightening energy shockwave. However, everyone could sense the terror hidden under this face-off. The seventh seat king firmly stared at the two clashing forces. He suddenly gritted his teeth and a fierce expression flashed across his eyes. Soon after, he slammed his hand heavily onto his chest. Thick and somewhat black crystal-like blood was spat out and shot into the Yimo Emperor Phantasm. The Yimo Emperor Phantasm seemed to become a little clearer as the black essence blood entered it, and a faint red glow seemed to surface in those blurry eyes of it. Break it! The seventh seat king sternly shouted with a twisted expression. Bang! The giant Yimo Emperor hand suddenly clenched after his cry sounded and faint cracks abruptly emerged on the black arrow. Finally, it was completely shattered under the giant Yimo Emperor hand. The expressions of the countless individuals below turned deathly white when the black arrow was shattered. Were they still going to lose in the end? Ugh! Lin Dong also spat out a mouthful of blood when the black arrow was destroyed as his body staggered a dozen steps backwards. It was clear that he had also been affected. Ha ha! The seventh seat king let out a loud and piercing laughter upon seeing this. His scattered long hair appeared exceptionally frightening. He looked at Lin Dong and said with a ferocious smile, "Your strongest attack has failed. What else can you do?" However, Lin Dong merely silently wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips in response to the seventh seat king's ferocious and loud laughter. He slowly lifted his head and looked at the seventh seat king and chuckled. Such power is still not enough. Lin Dong's laughter faded as he once again slowly pulled the lightning bow. Fresh blood dripped down the bowstring. Black light ultimately gathered again. The color of the black arrow seemed to be even deeper than before. Are you still not going to give up? It seems that you do not have any other tricks left. The seventh seat king mocked upon seeing Lin Dong pull the bowstring again. Lin Dong ignored his ridicule. His eyes slowly shut and his mind entered the deepest part of his heart. That feeling, he needed it to be clearer. That mysterious power was still insufficient. Come out. A seemingly deep mumble quietly spread within Lin Dong's heart, while his mind stealthily drifted within the area. Zenith sensing art, just where was it? Lin Dong's consciousness dispersed. Without realizing it, his mind had become blurry. However, his heart was as clear as a mirror amidst his blurry thoughts, while an indescribable feeling stealthily spread. Lin Dong's consciousness suddenly barged into a domain of primal chaos. It felt just like a fetus in its mother's womb, leaving one so intoxicated that it made one unwilling to awake. However, the powerful will within his body forcefully extracted his consciousness from its intoxicated state. It was as though a voice was emitted from his consciousness and ultimately entered that primal chaos. Give me your power. A deep roar seemed to echo within the primal chaos as Lin Dong's consciousness swiftly disappeared. Lin Dong suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. A flash of primal chaos light flitted in the depths of his black eyes. It was as if a strand of primal chaos light that no one could see had shined on the black arrow. After which, the color of the black arrow gradually changed and it ultimately turned into an arrow of primal chaos. A grin slowly formed from the corners of Lin Dong's lips. After which, he smiled towards the seventh seat king and suddenly released the bowstring held in his fingers. The primal chaos arrow was accompanied by that mysterious power as it once again shot across the sky under the attention of countless taunt gazes. A streak of primal chaos flashed across the horizon. That momentary brilliance was akin to the light that was born when the world was formed. It gave off the feeling of the ultimate mystery. While the arrow wrapped by the light of primal chaos shot out, the seventh-seat king's pupils abruptly tightened. In the next instant, ruthlessness surged out from his eyes. Die for this seated king. The seventh-seat king's expression was twisted. His hands came together and drew several strange seals as a piercing cry rang out. Armageddon hand. In the sky, the red light in the eyes of the Yimo Emperor Phantasm quietly blossomed. Subsequently, the Yimo Emperor's titanic hand turned a little more corporeal. Seemingly evil to the extreme, demonic chi surged within its palm. Just a touch of this demonic chi was enough to destroy a reincarnation stage expert. Swish! The Yimo Emperor hand reached forward and the sky crumbled. In the next instant, the evil to the extreme hand had already collided against the unremarkable primal chaos arrow under countless super tense gazes. Buzz! A strange buzzing sound spread in the sky at this moment. Energy ripples that were visible to the naked eye continuously pulsated outwards and ended up almost covering the entire sky. At the epicenter, the Yimo Emperor hand and the arrow were tightly locked together. However, the primal chaos arrow was completely still, and not even the slightest tremble could be seen. Roar! The ferocity in the seventh-seat king's eyes intensified as he watched this scene, and a roar emerged from his throat. Subsequently, an ominous light flickered within his eyes as numerous closely packed cracks appeared on his arm. Fresh black blood flowed unceasingly from the cracks and covered the entire arm in the blink of an eye. TCH, aren't you afraid of playing to the death in the clash with this seated king? The seventh-seat king viciously smiled at Lin Dong with a warped expression. In the next instant, his cracked arm suddenly exploded. Fresh black blood along with several black crystals swept out and charged into the giant Yimo Emperor hand that was facing the primal chaos arrow. As the fresh blood flowed in, the Yimo Emperor hand turned substantially corporeal. So much so that even the bizarre otherworldly symbols on the giant hand were faintly discernible. The complexions of the countless experts on the island below instantly paled even further when they saw this scene. This seventh-seat king was so vicious. He could sacrifice even an arm for the sake of killing Lin Dong. Was the arrow condensed by Lin Dong's strongest power going to be defeated this time? Ji Yumenqi and the rest tightly clenched their fists as anxiousness and worry filled their eyes. If Lin Dong was defeated again, the morale on the island would plummet. Lin Dong, you can do it, Ji Yu Yang tightened her tiny fists as she mumbled. Creek star. The giant Yimo Emperor hand slowly grabbed downwards, and the primal chaos arrow faintly trembled. A shadow quietly descended as if that Yimo Emperor was reaching out with its hand of ruination. However, Lin Dong's expression gradually turned peaceful in response to this turn of events. In the next moment, he deeply breathed in as he softly muttered, Zenith, destroy the devil. Buzz! The primal chaos arrow suddenly jerked and the light of primal chaos exploded. Under the explosion of this radiance, the slowly descending Yimo Emperor hand was forcibly stopped, causing it to no longer be able to close. The seventh-seat king's expression abruptly changed when the Yimo Emperor hand was stopped. Unease suddenly surged in his heart as he gazed upon the primal chaos arrow that was as steady as a mountain within the Yimo Emperor hand. This arrow seemed to be somewhat different than before. Yi? While unease surged in the seventh-seat king's heart, a clear sound suddenly erupted from the primal chaos arrow that had been suppressed by the Yimo Emperor hand since the beginning. All of the spreading primal chaos light suddenly pulled back into the arrow. Buzz! The primal chaos arrow turned crystal-like at this moment as a mysterious yet simple power spread. This power was completely opposite to the evilness from the Yimo Emperor hand, but it gave off an aura of invincibility. The tail of the arrow shook madly. Soon after, a strange light seemed to surface at the arrow tip and the arrow violently shot forth with a jerk. Ch. A magnificent radiance unfurled. Overflowing Yimo chi burst out from the Yimo Emperor hand in an attempt to stop the sudden explosion of power from the arrow. However, it was as if the arrow had the aid of the gods, and the primal chaos light forcibly ripped apart the layers of almost solid like Yimo chi. Under the attention of countless astonished gazes, the arrow barbarically pierced the Yimo Emperor hand and ultimately penetrated the Yimo Emperor head like hot knife through butter. Swish! The arrow shot out from the Yimo Emperor head and dashed towards the heavens. The light following it gave off an incomparably proud aura akin to a giant dragon. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions rang out from within the Yimo Emperor Phantasm's body. Subsequently, that enormous body exploded under the countless shocked gazes. The seventh seat king blankly gazed at the exploding Yimo Emperor Phantasm as the skull seal in his hand also cracked and exploded. The strand of black hair within it started to burn without fire and quietly turned into ash that drifted away. Ugh! A mouthful of thick black blood directly spurted from the seventh seat king's mouth. He was unable to believe this scene. To think that the Yimo Emperor Phantasm was actually destroyed by Lin Dong. How is this possible? While his body trembled, there was a faint trace of terror in his gaze as he looked towards the distant somewhat pale face of Lin Dong who was holding the lightning bow. This had evidently exceeded the seventh seat king's expectations. On the island, the countless experts were first stunned when they saw this. Soon after, earth-shaking cheers erupted. When the terrifying Yimo Emperor Phantasm was destroyed, the frightening pressure also faded. For a time, the morale on the island soared. Ji Mengqi and Ji Yang exchanged a look and saw the intense joy and surprise in each other's eyes. In the sky, the lightning bow in Lin Dong's hand slowly faded as he listened to the earth-shattering cheers from below. It was fortunate that he had advanced to the reincarnation stage. Or else, it would be very difficult to endure the frightening energy expenditure even with the full recovery powers of the devouring ancestral symbol. What else do you have left now? Lin Dong's ferocious gaze focused on the seventh seat king. The latter's complexion was deathly pale and the demonic chi around his body was in disorder. It was obvious that he had suffered extremely serious injuries. This was the best opportunity to beat an enemy while he was down. The seventh seat king's pupils contracted a little when he saw Lin Dong's gaze and he secretly clenched his teeth. This brat would become even more difficult to deal with at every encounter. If the Yimo Emperor Phantasm had not stopped the earlier arrow, he would be in an extremely dire state. Boom! While the seventh seat king's gaze turned grim, 10,000 purple gold rays of light once again shot out from around Lin Dong's body, as dragon roars filled the sky. Space distorted as his body moved, and he appeared in front of the seventh seat king. Without any mercy, fists containing mountain-destroying power viciously slammed into the seventh seat king's body. Bang bang bang. The gravely injured seventh seat king's aura was unsteady. Demonic chi circulated, but the numerous defenses formed were directly blasted apart by Lin Dong's barbaric attacks. Like a giant purple gold soaring dragon, Lin Dong's fist slammed into the seventh seat king's body. Terrifying power exploded, and the seventh seat king's body was immediately sent flying. Fresh black blood continuously spouted from where his arm had been lost, while deep fist imprints could be seen on the extremely dim Devil Emperor armor on his body. The current seventh seat king seemed to have lost all ability to retaliate. He spit out a mouthful of black blood and stared at Lin Dong with a twisted face. The bitter resentment in the seventh seat king's eyes seemed to be about to incinerate the latter. Go accompany the ninth seat king. Lin Dong gave the seventh seat king a sinister smile. His body once again appeared in front of the latter and with a clench of his fist, 10,000 purple gold giant dragons gathered together to form a dragon spear once again. Next, the spear ruthlessly thrust towards the seventh seat king's throat. So it is you who killed the ninth seat king. Upon hearing these words, the seventh seat king's expression instantly changed. Lin Dong ignored the seventh seat king. With a sinister expression in his eyes, the dragon spear rapidly approached the seventh seat king. However, just as the dragon spear was about to reach, Lin Dong saw a strange smile appear on the seventh seat king's face. You brat, you really are hard to deal with. However, my mission can reluctantly be considered complete if you are killed. The seventh seat king extended his sole arm and steadily grabbed the dragon spear. This terrifying power betrayed his previously weak appearance. Lin Dong's pupils shrunk when he saw this bizarre change as unease suddenly rose in his heart. Silver light flashed on his body as he attempted to retreat, trying to leave. The seventh seat king grinned upon seeing this. His body squirmed and wiggled as two arms forcibly emerged. These two hands formed a strange seal, and viscous demonic chi surged and blasted Lin Dong's chest like a bolt of lightning. Bang! Even the sky shook for a moment when the demonic chi surged. Subsequently, the crowd watched in horror as the previously advantageous Lin Dong was suddenly sent flying backwards as he spit out blood. His chest had even caved in a little, and it was clear that he had suffered an extremely grave injury. Ugh! A mouthful of fresh blood was spit out from Lin Dong's mouth. He hastily steadied his body as he cold gaze looked towards the squirming body of the seventh seat king. There seemed to be something hidden within his body. What a strong physical body. To think that you are still alive even after a combined blow from the three of us. The seventh seat king's body twisted as a buzzing laughter suddenly emerged from within it. Viscous demonic chi surged out of his body and ultimately transformed into two devil-like figures by his side under countless astonished gazes. The two devil figures were tall and well-built, and one of them was a little slimmer. They were currently smiling as they stared at Lin Dong. However, those smiles were filled with endless killing intent. Let me introduce myself. I am Devil Prison's 8th-seat king. One of the tall devil-like figures faintly smiled and said, I seem to have seen you before, brat. You are that fellow who obtained the Devouring Master's inheritance, right? The other devil-like figure's eyes swept across Lin Dong as he smilingly said. His appearance was rather familiar. He was the 10th seat king that had appeared back then from within the shattered domain. To think that there were two seated kings hidden within this 7th seat king's body. Evidently, this was originally a secret move planned for the Chaos Master. Yet, it had now been forced out by Lin Dong. On the island, the cheering came to an abrupt halt as the bodies of many experts faintly trembled. The 7th seat king alone was already so difficult to deal with. Yet two Yimos that were not inferior to him had appeared? How could they fight this? Lin Dong slowly wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth. The expression in his eyes was very grave. These Yimo were truly cunning. The situation was now really troublesome. Given his current strength, dealing with one 7th seat king was already the limit. If another two-seated kings appeared, it was really going to be. No matter what, if you plan on going to the Chaotic Tower, you will have to step over this young master's dead body. Lin Dong grinned. His grin was incomparably ferocious. He could only fight to the death in this situation. The three-seated kings released a mocking laugh. Without further ado, their bodies moved. They intended to attack together and behead this huge threat known as Lin Dong. However, just as they were about to strike, the entire area abruptly turned ice cold. The cold chi caused even the surging demonic chi to gradually freeze. Lin Dong also felt this cold chi. His expression immediately changed as he hastily cast his gaze downwards, only to find that the 10,000 feet large frost prison had suddenly crumbled. A lovely ice blue figure slowly walked out from within. Behind her, 3 ice statues flickered with a dazzling light. She stood on cold chi as she emotionlessly gazed at the 3-seated kings with her beautiful ice blue eyes. An icy voice spread in the sky. You do not have my permission to kill him. Cold chi spread and appeared to engulf the entire area. In the face of this cold chi, both the surging evil demonic chi and the mighty Yuan power gradually began to freeze. It was as though they were about to be frozen. This sudden turn of events caused everyone from both sides to be startled. Countless pairs of eyes shifted towards the origin of the cold chi, where they saw Ying Huanhuan gently shifting her feet. Each time she moved, cold chi would gather into an ice lotus under her foot. A lotus was formed with each step, a gorgeously mystical scene. Behind her were 3 ice statues that gleamed with cold light. They were the 3 true kings who were comparable to those who had experienced one reincarnation tribulation. Yet, all of them had turned into statues of ice. The many strong individuals present were stunned upon seeing this scene. The cold chi emanating from within Ying Huanhuan's body had surpassed even Lin Dong. This caused their eyes to twitch rapidly, before they finally recovered. The strongest person was not Lin Dong. Instead, it was this icy girl who followed at his side. You. The seventh seat king trio were also greatly startled by this sudden turn of events. Their eyes paused on Ying Huanhuan and they quickly recalled something. Soon after, their pupils shrunk as great shock abruptly surfaced on their faces. You are the Ice Master. Ice Master. An existence that was only inferior to the symbol ancestor during that ancient era. Countless Yimo kings had been turned into ice statues and shattered to dust at her hands. Even the strongest Heaven Seat King of Devil Prison had been seriously wounded by her in the final clash back then, forcing them to go into hiding, and hence ending the Long World War. This name was dreadfully intimidating for the Yimo. Ying Huanhuan's pretty icy blue eyes looked at the seventh seat king trio. She gently clenched her hand and the three ice statues behind were shattered with a bang, turning into brilliant ice fragments that fell from the sky. The eyes of the seventh seat king trio twitched upon seeing this. No one could have imagined that three true kings would actually appear so weak in Ying Huanhuan's hands. Ying Huanhuan finally arrived in front of Lin Dong and looked at his pale face. This man tended to take on all the difficult tasks on his own. At times, he was a little reckless and somewhat overbearing. However, it was also because of this that she felt a faint warmth flowing within her ice-cold heart. Huanhuan. Lin Dong frowned slightly as he looked at frighteningly cold Ying Huanhuan. Ying Huanhuan smiled at him and placed her cold hand on his body. Subsequently, frost appeared over the injuries on his body as a chilly energy surged into his body and healed Lin Dong's shaken internal organs. Leave them to me. Ying Huanhuan's icy hand touched Lin Dong's face as she softly said, You cannot simply allow me to watch you become so badly injured without doing anything right? Such thinking is somewhat selfish. Lin Dong was somewhat taken aback. Soon after, he muttered, I am very selfish. But I like this selfishness of yours. Ying Huanhuan smiled. Her pretty eyes looked at Lin Dong and said, However, even if you beat or scold me this time around, I will not simply stand idly by the side and watch. Lin Dong looked at Ying Huanhuan. There was a smile on her face. However, this smile seemed to possess a determination that would not be deterred. Finally, he could only sigh softly. Be careful. The smile on Ying Huanhuan's face brightened when she saw Lin Dong nod his head. She nodded gently and slowly turned her body. Those eyes of hers were already cold enough to freeze the air when they looked at the seventh seat king trio again. The eyelids of the seventh seat king trio twitched upon seeing Ying Huanhuan's expression. After all, the name of the Ice Master was far too famous during that ancient era. There is no need to be afraid of her. She isn't the real Ice Master. She is only her reincarnation and has yet to fully recover her strength. The seventh seat king gritted his teeth and cried out sternly. The eighth seat king and 10th seat king nodded upon hearing this. Their gazes were fixed on Ying Huanhuan as they spoke in a sinister fashion, It's just as well. We will deal with her before she completely recovers her powers. I'm afraid that it is impossible for three little mice like you. Ying Huanhuan extended her finger. Cold chi gathered over the tips of her jade-like fingers and turned into many ice lotuses. Her icy blue eyes glanced at the three of them as she replied in a faint voice. Humph, come and give it a try. The seventh seat king trio exchanged glances with each other as a dark and cold expression rose in their eyes. They took a step forward simultaneously as three frightening demonic chi auras swept out from them. The seventh seat king had the weakest aura. Clearly, it was due to being heavily injured by Lin Dong earlier. Despite this, the eruption of auras from the trio was relatively frightening. The three clusters of demonic chi rose to the air like 100,000 feet area of smoke. It could be clearly seen even from 1,000 miles away. Roar? A wild beast-like roar was suddenly emitted from their mouths. Fierce glints flashed in their eyes and the seal formed by their hands changed. 300,000 feet large demonic chi torrents flew towards Ying Huanhuan with lightning speed. The demonic chi torrents were as viscous as water. The evil aura from them caused one's hair to stand. However, Ying Huanhuan merely lifted her pretty eyes in the face of the combined attacks from the trio. She merely stomped her foot lightly when the demonic chi torrents were about to strike her body. Bang! Cold chi swept outwards in a wild manner. In an instant, it had already turned into an incomparably large blue ice shield in front of her. The 3 demonic chi torrents arrived. However, before their strength could be unleashed, the extremely overbearing cold chi had already spread. Crack! The 3 demonic chi torrents started to freeze as a layer of ice spread at a frighteningly rapid pace above the demonic chi. In an instant, the 3 frightening demonic chi torrents had turned into 3 ice pillars that flickered with cold light. Damn it! The 7th Seat King trio's expressions turned ugly when they saw that the demonic chi was actually frozen by the cold chi. Before they could launch another attack, Ying Huanhuan clenched her hand. 3 ice pillars that were 100,000 feet long shot forth and ruthlessly charged towards the 7th Seat King trio. Boom! The trio hastily tried to receive the attack with their full strength upon seeing this. Their fists were covered with a dense demonic chi as they heavily smashed onto the ice pillars. 2 terrifying forces clashed and the ice pillars were shattered into fragments that filled the sky. Groan! Although the ice pillars were shattered, the 8th Seat King and 10th Seat King released a faint moan. The already injured 7th Seat King had a pale expression and ended up involuntarily spitting out a mouthful of black blood. How powerful! The countless people on the island were stunned by the shocking scene of the Ice-Blue Beauty gaining the upper hand despite fighting against 3 opponents alone. Lin Dong's performance earlier had already shocked them. However, they never imagined that this lady actually hid such a great power. Ying Huanhuan's pretty eyes were frosty. She glanced at the 7th Seat King trio and lightly walked forward. A chilling aura filled with endless murderous desire accompanied her as she slowly walked towards them. Attack together! The 7th Seat King's heart involuntarily shivered when he saw Ying Huanhuan walk towards them. They had exchanged blows with the Ice Master during that ancient era. However, the result was that they were nearly killed. If they do not join hands, it was likely that they would really die here. The 8th Seat King and 10th Seat King clenched their teeth and nodded. The seals formed by the trio's hands changed in an instant. After which, they suddenly crashed together. The trio's bodies started to squirm and wiggle as sinister-looking demonic thorns slowly extended from their bodies. They were just like the devils which had climbed up from hell, an appearance that made one's heart to tremble. Ch. Black blood suddenly shot out from their bodies. The viscous blood quickly gathered in the air above them. Finally, it turned into an extremely mysterious black symbol. The black devil symbol grew at a frightening speed. In the short span of several breaths, it had turned into 100,000 feet large. Moreover, countless demonic arms extended from around the devil symbol. From a distance, it looked just like an evil devil from another world. Ying Huanhuan lifted her head as her pretty eyes took in the sight of countless demonic arms growing from the devil symbol. The cold chi in the depths of her eyes became increasingly astonishing. 10,000 devils gather, devil seal of endless pain. The 7th Seat King trio suddenly roared. Their mournful howl echoed across the sky. Bang! That incomparably titanic 10,000-armed devil symbol suddenly jerked. After which, it shot down from the sky. 10,000 arms were swung, and it seemed as though the sky was being torn apart at this moment. 100,000 feet tall waves rose on the ocean below as loud rumbling resounded in the area. Lin Dong gazed upon this frightening attack with eyes full of graveness. These devil prison-seated kings were indeed powerful. Such an attack could likely kill any peak-level expert who had experienced 2 reincarnation tribulations. I wonder if Huanhuan can receive it. Lin Dong looked at the delicate and beautiful ice-blue figure in a somewhat worried manner as his hands tightly clenched. Yuan power surged within his body. He had decided to unleash the spatial ancestral symbol and rescue her the moment something went wrong. Ying Huanhuan lifted her head. Her pretty eyes focused on the endless pain devil seal that was rushing towards her. Her face remained unmoved. She simply allowed the frightening wind to blow over, causing her clothes to flutter and her long icy blue hair to dance with the wind. The terrifying devil seal reflected in her pretty icy blue eyes rapidly expanded. Several breaths later, the huge shadow had already enveloped Ying Huanhuan in front of countless pairs of shocked eyes. Ying Huanhuan slowly extended her slender arm under those countless watching gazes. Her blue sleeve rolled down and revealed her suet jade-like wrist as her long fingers spread apart. Subsequently, she lifted her hand and lightly touched the 10,000-armed devil symbol. Eternal Frost. A soft and sweet voice that was pleasant to the ear accompanied an intense chill as it quietly spread across the sky. The terrifying power of the devil seal suddenly froze at this moment. Crack! The pupils of countless individuals suddenly shrunk the moment the devil seal froze. A thick layer of ice suddenly spread from Ying Huanhuan's hands. After which, it enveloped the entire devil seal at a frightening speed and turned it into a giant block of ice. Ying Huanhuan's pretty eyes lifted gently. Her long fingers gently flicked the devil seal. Bang! The moment her finger touched it, the devil seal formed from the combined strength of the seventh Seat King trio completely shattered like a weak glass. This episode ends here.